Ambassadeur Sleeuwagen, for taking the time to speak with us.
You're welcome.
As you know, our NGO's objective is to build a movement. We are trying to not only just do something by ourselves, but to bring the whole global community together to build a thought process that can lead us to a much more sustainable world going forward. So we are here to seed socially, economically sustainable societies. And it's a movement to bring the younger generations to us and to you and to the thought leaders from around the world. How do we build a society together that gives the chance of a balance of individual freedom to communities that can work together? So here we would like to start with Belgium.
Sure.
And we want to understand, while we're building this idea of what is this perfect global citizen who can create a sustainable society, what is the characteristics of Belgium that have been uniquely great to build Belgium into a flourishing society?
Thank you very much. And well, one of the characteristics is already the fact that we are very happy to see you here. So we love that idea that you're making, and we support that very much. So I would describe our society as an open society, welcoming, a liberal society, but also a caring society. And that is internally Belgium, in Belgium for the Belgians, or the people who live there, but also abroad, outside of Belgium. And that is something, those characteristics really define the way we live, the way we interact together as Belgians, but also the way Belgium tries to be part of the international community. And in fact, when you look a bit at the history of Belgium, you see the location of Belgium. We call ourselves in the center, in the heart of Europe, like all other European countries. We're on the crossroads in Europe, and you know what we say, the revenge of geography. It's very important. Location is very important. We're at the seaside. Belgium is full of waterways, and we don't have any natural borders. So that means Belgium has always been open, always been welcoming, and always has been receiving a lot of guests. Sometimes invited, sometimes not invited. We were occupied by everybody, by the French, by the Germans, by the Italians, by the Austrians, by the Spanish, even the Dutch came, and we were part of those countries, like many other countries, regions in Europe, part of being of the bigger countries. And this history has formed Belgium, and it has formed the Belgian society, the Belgian mentality. That's why we are open, why we are welcoming, that's why we are liberal, but also caring. Also another aspect of Belgian society is quite individual. With, although we are open, there is some distance to what is other people, a national authority, because Belgians are quite individualistic. And that is because we have been occupied by so many different forces, so that the individual Belgian historically always kept his own space, yes. But on the other hand, we have a very good high level of acceptance for migration and immigration. So to give you an example through history, in the Middle Ages, Belgium didn't exist, it was a region. It was a bit the center of the world, of the known world to Western society in those days. Italians came to learn how to paint. They came to Belgium to do so. And that was, our ports were very important, our waterways were very important. And then around the end of the 19th century, Belgium existed by then as a geographical and a constitutional entity. We were like the 5th or 6th industrial nation in the world. And then later on in the 1950s, 1960s, Belgium was very open. We were founding member of the EU, founding member of NATO, founding member of the UN. First Secretary General of the United Nations was Belgium. And we accommodated the EU and the NATO as the headquarters. We had immigration waves, and when you look at a very good example, Belgium is now, for example, #1 football team in the world.
Okay.
Not France.
Oh, that's what I remember.
Exactly. And when you see the team is composed of many, what you think, different nationalities, it's not the usual Belgian name that you hear in those teams, but these people are Belgian. And so they contributed to the, as you say, the success of Belgium. They contributed to the diversity of Belgium, and we're very happy about it.
That's why Belgium is a perfect lab for the global world of this people.
It's not perfect, but it's a good lab because migration, diversity, it came at a price as well.
That's why it's a lab. We are still experimenting to find the answer.
Because people sometimes ask us, well, what is your Belgian nationality feeling? And then you have this, you have the two major cultures in Europe, which is the Germanophonic, which is English, Dutch, Swedish, and then you have the Latin, which is French, Spanish, and Italian. And these two major cultures have formed Europe by fighting all over the Middle Ages, and they have been fighting. Borders have been created according to these two great cultures. And that goes for France, that goes for Italy, for most of the countries, except for Belgium. Because we have the clash of those two cultures within one country. Now you have that in Switzerland, for example. You have that in Italy, you have it a bit in France. But in Belgium, those two cultures are more or less equal. Hence, the continuous political discussion which is going on. There is a fight going on, but it's always a democratic fight. It's based on compromise. So that is another very important aspect of Belgium.
So that's why we need to develop this benchmark.
Looking for respecting others, and that is the definition of democracy, which we're trying to get. Is it's not the majority who decides, but it's a majority who decides with respect of the minority or the minorities. And of course, a minority has to respect the majority, but they are rightfully entitled to claim for the respect of their rights as well. And that is very important in world society, because the majority of today maybe is not the majority of tomorrow. And it cannot be that a winner takes all. Even in democracy, where you have a two-party state, like in the US or the UK, more or less, there in the election, the winner takes all, but the winner doesn't take all in the policy. You have to respect your minorities.
Yeah, even in the US, we have 3 Congress, we have the president, and we have the Supreme Court to balance each other out.
Yeah. But even there, it's not because when the Democrats win an election that everything, all the ideas of the Republican is being thrown out. You have to respect, you have to work together.
To keep it moving smoothly.
It's a way of balancing, because when you see if one majority is too long in power, it takes
stale.
Too much for granted. And that is very important, that you have a continuous discussion within your democracy. And that is what we are having in Belgium. And as I said, it comes at a price. Belgium is a very complicated country constitutionally, but it does work, and it does have results. People live well. And when I was saying at the beginning that Belgium is very social, a very good example is our social security system, which is at a very high level, costs a lot of money, but it's something that people are proud of, and it's something that people want to see something as something worthwhile working for and continuous working for.
Yes, see, this is why what I feel today's challenge is, as the people and people's thoughts can transfer around the world very quickly with the changes in our technologies. We often, as an individual, have many identities, but we might be in a given nation at a given point in time. So as the globalization of corporations, countries are getting globalized too.
Yes, yeah. And one aspect of Belgium, which is very important in our international politics, is the multilateralism, what we call. So we pay a lot of attention to everything that is multilateral within the EU, of course, within NATO, but also within United Nations and its different institutions, which is very important to us.
So this sense of the core value, which can be aspiration for the world to hold as a benchmark for our global citizen, how do you think the latest incidents either highlight that point or are getting challenged these days?
Both. They highlight because it goes to show that individuals can do a lot of damage. We call them individuals. They're organized individuals, but they're still individuals. They use any kind of an excuse. Here they use the excuse of religion, but it can be anything else. Look what happened, the individual who killed people in Norway. So you have individuals who can do a lot of damage to a society. What is important is the way a society will react to it, because many of these people do these acts to provoke, and to provoke acts of an organized society to become polarized, so that their basis would grow because of feeling treated unjustly. And I think in Belgium what we have tried to do was to react with a lot of serenity to these acts of violence. On the other hand, we cannot be naive as well. We have to raise our security standards, not only in Belgium, but everywhere. And so some people say that you're going to profiling, which is no. But it's profiling in a way it should not give rise to racism, xenophobia, or religious fight against any religion. That should not be. And what is very important in all this is you have to respect groups, but you have to respect the individual person. And I think we see this in many other countries where they say, well, our religion is very important, our group is very important, and we have to give less attention to the individual because the group has to grow first. We can accept all that. But we say the right of the individual is still fundamental in ours, or should be fundamental in all our societies. That's why Belgium is such a defender of human rights. And that's why we clash very often with other countries who say, well, you know, we have religious or societal difficulties with individual human rights. For us, we respect those ideas, but it's difficult to accept it. And that's why we try to defend the individual human rights, even though in some that we know very well, we go into a clash with societies, because culturally they're not ready for individual human rights, but we still say the individual human right is sacred.
So if I take a point, the profile of the country is the individual.
Well, the individual, yes, but on the other hand, we have one of the strongest social security systems in the world. So it's the individual who wants to be part of a society and who's ready to deliver for that, ready to pay, ready to work, ready to assume, and ready to diminish his individual rights for the better being But being said, with asking a lot of respect for his individuality and his individual rights. But individual rights, in fact, when they are all respected, they become part of your group. And so that is very important. That is very important as a message. And that is what we're trying to say in multilateralism as well.
And how those values of individual, while individual is willing to give up for the greater good by providing his share of the economic growth of the country through taxation, so there is a social net for all the people of the society, and how it has helped that individual emotionally, socially, and economically.
It's a stimulation for the individual, because to continue being part of the society, because you know that at one stage maybe you will need something out of it, because you grow into that society. So let's say if you have a normal, healthy life, you would have your children going to school, and you need invalidity and sickness insurances. But you also know you can count on the society that in case you need it, you will have it. But you can also feel good that you contribute also to your society. You do your part of your society.
This is the sense of that little village brought into a nation, sense of the nation.
And that you know that everybody else is doing his part. And this gives rise to a lot of political discussion. Should you do more because you earn more than me, or because I need more, should I get more than you? But all this is part of the democratic process, part of a public debate, part of a lot of discussion, because it's about money. But the fundamental rule of having solidarity built into your life is never questioned. It's the level which is being questioned. Now in the States you have that as well, in the US, but on a complete different level. We take the level of solidarity much higher than it is in the States. The only thing we are looking to, for example, as an example, in the States, is how much money do you still spend for your social security system? And that is big difference, for example, between Nordic countries, Sweden and the US, for example. There you have, we're a bit in between. But then, and that is also something we're sending as a message to within the United Nations, for example, to other countries. Create your social security for the individual, for the group, for the companies. It's all very important to create this.
So bringing this sense of old values of a little village to the level of a nation.
Yes. And I like your example of the village, because when you see how the world is growing, in the Middle Ages it was cities fighting each other. Venice, Genoa, then it became the kingdoms, and then it became the countries, but the villages are not fighting anymore. So now the world is growing, it's more and more connected, so maybe one day countries will not fight anymore. You can still have groups fighting, that you will always have, because individuals will fight as well.
Yes.
But the organized fighting, I hope we can get rid of that.
And I think that's where we are coming together as a global society.
Absolutely. And that's a responsibility that we have to take, and in trying to ensure that this will go down, that this will be diminished.
And these values, I think they're all intertwined, so it's difficult to rank one above the other that we have talked about.
I think it would be very difficult to rank them. It depends on the situation. It depends on the time. But I would say still the right for the individual to decide on his own life is some of the highest, but it's not absolute. It's not because it's a high.
To keep the individual right, they have to respect the right of the other.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It has
So
to be
that's
right.
where the sense of community comes into
Yeah,
play.
yeah. And community, you can define this based on nationality, but community can be based on religion. But every time you start deciding or defining community, you put borders, which is a bit sad.
But it's fluid now. See, that's why I call ourselves, we are multi-layered identity.
That's what we think, and that's what we hope, and that's what we strive for. But of course, it's not there yet. But you see, for example, for me as a diplomat, I've been everywhere, and when you live abroad, you see people laugh for the same thing and they cry for the same thing, everywhere in the world.
Yes.
But the way you organize it is different.
So now for more fun ways, because we want to take this initiative to schools and to create some small games with school children to share all the different ideas of different countries and nations and communities. We wanted to ask you if there were symbolic things that we could share with schools, kids. What is Belgium? Belgium chocolate?
Yeah, well, you know, the way we see us as well is, and it's also part of the individuality, is we see ourselves as very often a symbol of the good life. And we have expressions for that. It's a Burgundian life. I'm sure your husband should know about this. Or the Bruegel, do you remember the old paintings where people are having parties like dancing and eating and drinking? It's very much part of our life. So we like the good life, all being respecting for the other who doesn't have anything, all being respecting for your own health, not exaggerating too much with your cholesterol, but it is part of enjoying the good things that life has to offer. But respecting it, enjoying it. And so of course you have the Belgian beer, you have the chocolate, you have the diamonds, all nice things. And I would say for children, I would look into these things. You know them.
Yes.
He's Belgian.
He's Belgian. This is Belgium.
He's Belgian.
Yes, this I know.
Yeah.
Every kid.
All of these people are Belgian. So all of this is the symbol of the légalité, the thing that is that people should have is the strive for the respect of life, individual respect of life, meaning enjoying life and going for the good aspects of life. All in all, respecting the others and respecting the world as well. So sustainable development, eco respect, all that is very much there. The economic footprint, it's very much alive in Belgium as in Europe.
So for me to conclude on Belgium, Belgium to be part of our global citizens benchmark, it's about this individual who will get to live and enjoy their life while they're here on this earth.
And the individual respecting the community and the other thinking. That's very important.
Thank you so very much, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. I wish you all the best and success.